My name's Effie, I'm the author of the Tales of Tyrannoch, and we are doing Fantasy Indies August. Before we get started, if you would please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button, it really does help me out. Today's prompt is Free Friday, and I don't really know what Free Friday's for, so I'm gonna just share with you some of the rules that I've made for myself while I'm writing the Tales of Tyrannoch to make sure that the story and the world building is consistent from book to book. The purpose of these rules is to prevent things like power creep, right? So we're putting limitations on the world, we're putting limitations on the magic system, we're giving ourselves boundaries within which to work. And you have to know the rules before you can break them, so let's talk about what those rules are. Rule number 1, consequences must be meaningful and impactful. So for example, when somebody dies in Tyrannoch, they are all the way dead. There's no loopholing, there's no getting out of it, there's no magic ring you can find in a cave that's going to bring them back to life. When they're dead, they're dead. That's it. Their story is over. And if somehow it isn't, if somehow somebody manages to get brought back to life, it's going to be really bad. Rule number 2, magic is slow and dangerous. I've actually got a whole video about Tyrannoch's magic system, so I'll make sure that that's linked somewhere up here, down there, whatever. But the basic premise is we're not going to have mages, wiggling their fingers and flinging fireballs everywhere. There's no healer that's going to be able to lay their hand on a mortal wound and suddenly everything's okay. In order for consequences to be meaningful and impactful, magic can't fix the problems, and one of the ways you keep magic from fixing the problems is it has to be slow and it has to be dangerous. Rule number 3, everybody is fair game. One of the things that makes a story dynamic and interesting for me is risk. The things that make a character's success meaningful, impactful to me is the risk of failure, and the higher the risk, the more meaningful the success. What I mean by that is, no matter how much I love a character, and I do love some of these characters, you won't find me twisting the story into knots just so that they can get a win, or just so that they survive when the story actually dictates that it would be better if they didn't. If the story says a character needs to die, they are going to die, and we'll just have to mourn them together. Rule number 4, nobody's perfect. I tend to like characters that are really deeply flawed, and I'm not a big fan of characters who feel cartoony, so that are clearly good or clearly bad, or have rules for themselves that they'll never ever cross. My characters exist in the gray, and I feel like that makes them feel more human, but sometimes that means that characters that you like are going to do things you don't. They're going to do things that make you uncomfortable. They're going to do things that make you question whether or not they're really a good person. And the answer is, yeah, they're a good person. They're just doing a bad thing. And that's kind of human. And finally, rule number 5. Things that are not human are not human. Fantasy creatures exist in a lot of fictional worlds, and Tyrannoch is no different. My goal with Tyrannoch's inhuman, sentient beings is that when you read them, they do not feel human. They don't have human motivations, they don't have human feelings, and you're not going to find, for example, a werewolf tearing himself up over the fact that he has to eat human hearts, or a vampire that's struck with depression because he happens to drink human blood and kills people. They're not human. They're not going to feel that way. They're not bound to human life the way that a human being would be. That doesn't mean they don't have motivations and feelings, just that those motivations and feelings are not going to be in line with the way that you would feel about something or the way that I would feel about something. They just don't function the way that you and I function. So hopefully by the time I get around to writing their stories, I'll actually have the skill needed to communicate that. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and of course if you like the way that I present information, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below. You can find all of my social media contacts in the description, and of course if you want to keep up with me and the progress I'm making on my current novel, you can do that at EffieWritesBooks.com. Thank you so much for watching, have an excellent day, and I'll see you next time.